All set. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
9 present.
9 present. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for my dear friend Beverly McQuaid Reslow, a Lowell resident. Employed for many years at UMass Lowell, she leaves behind 9 children, 3 sons, 6 daughters, one of which is my daughter-in-law, a brother Stanley McQuaid, 20 grandchildren, one of which is my grandson. As a friend, she was the best. She will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers in her memory. May she rest in peace. Moving on to the agenda, we have the first item, our minutes of the October 16th meeting for acceptance. Any questions or additions, deletions? Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under communications from the city manager, we have responses to various council motions and requests. Any questions on those items? Yes. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some weeks ago, probably like 2 weeks ago, we had this council be addressed by numerous parents concerned about the safety of the children playing out at the schoolyard at the Pine Arts Magnet School, on which I had an occasion to address the 6th grade class there this afternoon. But I did notice, and we did get a memo, and I want to say that there's something that always impresses me is when someone gives their word that they're going to do something and it actually does get done. And Mr. Manager, I want to publicly thank you for putting that gate that closes permanently so that unauthorized vehicles and traffic will not cut through and hurt our children while they play. So thank you very much. I wanted to say that. Motion completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. The city manager actually put a letter in our packet regarding health insurance rider for increasing age of dependents. And I had received a number of calls from a constituent looking for information as to whether or not the city would be interested in adopting this rider. He also, this constituent did forward to me a copy of a letter from Massachusetts Blue Cross Blue Shield, where it actually talks about the eligibility for dependent coverage going from, I believe, age 21 up to age 26 if they met certain criteria. So I was wondering, Mr. Manager, if you could just explain your recommendation relative to this health insurance rider so that the viewing audience can understand the city's position and whether or not this is something, based upon the fact that we're self-insured, whether or not it's something that would in fact, if a family actually elects to, if they could elect to actually participate on a pro rata basis or independently, does the risk actually rest with the insurance company or does it end up staying with the city since we're self-insured? So if you could, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I did provide you with a letter that outlined my position relative to this issue. there have been some changes in the law regarding the coverage for dependents. Municipalities that are self-insured and other self-insured pools do not fall under that particular change in the statute. Changing the essentially what has been requested by a couple of employees is that we adopt a rider, which would have a cost to the city of, would have a total cost of about $186,000 based upon the actuarial analysis. It could be perhaps a little bit higher than that. But in all likelihood, the city would have to absorb that cost for this year, and then it would pass on 25% of the cost to the employees in the future. But my recommendation to the council, or I guess the better way of putting it is my decision relative to this adoption of this rider is that given the very difficult condition that we find ourselves in financially, particularly as it relates to health insurance, and based upon the advice of our health insurance consultants, the addition of increased benefits at this point in time really doesn't make the best sense for the city. It's particularly true given the fact that in the past and currently we're trying to work with our employee groups to hold down those costs, and we're looking at other changes that would have to be negotiated, such as increased co-pays, to hold those costs in check. So at this point in time, it doesn't make sense to do that. Relative to the pro rata share, that having just the affected individuals pay their share of that, it really works against the concept of insurance, that the risk is shared, and there isn't a way to do that. It's interesting, we had a discussion at the Insurance Advisory Committee today with the employees relative to other benefits or other riders that we could put in place in having only the affected employees that would take advantage of that. And again, it really is impossible in an insurance setup to just take that type of, to split off that type of coverage.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, has this specific issue been brought up to the Insurance Advisory Committee before?
We had a very brief discussion, not at this meeting. We had it at the last meeting where I think one person said that they had heard that there was some questions regarding this. I said that I would be coming to the council with my decision regarding this matter, and I've since sent that on to the this letter on to the Insurance Advisory Committee as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Dunsa?
Just for clarification, because I'm not entirely clear, has the benefits offered by the city changed, or is this a new benefit that could be available if we adopted it?
This would be a new benefit that would be added to the existing benefit. We have not gone back. It is simply this would be looking for a new benefit.
So in the past and currently, up to their 23rd birthday, they can be covered by the family's health insurance. Is that
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I received a letter from a constituent, a taxpayer, who was a little upset, and I don't blame that person. On March 16th of 2007, I filed a motion to address the burnt-out building on 155 Westford Street. The building has been sitting there for over a year, burnt out. 8 months have passed since I filed the motion. And I know, Mr. Manager, you're working on a line item or account with the auditor. But I would have to agree with this constituent. She said, what is my tax money being used for? Would this building be standing if it was next to my house, your house, or anyone else's house? It's an eyesore. And the question I have for you, Mr. Manager, could we take some money from the contingency account to address this issue and then replace that money once that money comes in, or bring some relief to these people? Because it's really, the neighborhood that is in is very confined. Matter of fact, the house next door to this house was, was damaged severely. So that's my question, like to just pose to you.
Mayor?
Do you have a response?
Counselor, I believe we even talked about this as recently as 2 meetings ago.
Yeah.
As to the money that we'd be utilizing for that. We came back to the council with a report that we need the fund that would be used to pay for this demolition was going to be set up through the auditor for transferring of money that we received from the sale of property. I believe it was 2 meetings ago, we sold a piece of property, perhaps it was 3 meetings ago, we sold a piece of property, and I advised the council at that time that once that money came in, the passing or the closing of that transfer, that we would take that money, put it in that account and pay for that. We've already gone through the process of going out and drawing up the specifications to have that work done. We're as frustrated as the length of time as you are, but we have identified the source of funds for that, and we are moving forward to have that work done. It is taking longer than we would have liked, but back in 2007 would have been that fiscal year. We didn't have money available at that time, and we did come up with a funding strategy to do it in this fiscal year.
I have no way of contacting this constituent because they didn't
you'd
sign
like-
it. So if you could give us a time frame, I don't know if the constituent is watching the meeting, but if there's a time frame, we could let that neighborhood know when we could demolish that building.
I would anticipate that it would be taking place sometime within the next month or two. That
Within
we'd
the
be able
next-
to move forward with that.
Okay. I have just 2 other issues.
Can
I received a call from,
on this issue?
Yeah, Counselor, we're on this issue
Oh,
still.
right.
Counselor Elliott?
I think it's a good point, but my question is, where is the property owner? And while I think we should take it down, and the neighborhood should not have to be exposed or have to see this on a daily basis, I certainly wouldn't like to, and none of us here would like to. So it's a point well taken. But where is the property owner? And perhaps I'm sure we're going to hear that it's an insurance issue, et cetera, but that just doesn't seem to be acceptable. I can only assume whoever owns the property wouldn't want to live next to it. So what can we do from a legal perspective? I mean, 8 months, they clearly, have to either take out a building permit or do something with that property, regardless of whether there's some insurance. Because this is not the only isolated case. And when there is, a problem like this, the homeowner or the property owner, I'm going to assume it's an absentee landlord that is just, waiting for the process to go through. And in the meantime, the neighborhood suffers. So can the building department do anything? Can the law department do it? Should we, do we begin, tax title foreclosure and take the property? And,
What we,
8 months is a long time,
Well,
Mr. Manager.
What we would do in this case, Counselor, is we would move forward with the demolition and then place a lien on the property. Essentially, I think what's happened in this case is the property owner has simply walked away. And, we'll take control of that property and we'll recoup our money once it's sold.
Okay. Well, that's a reasonable approach. Take the property, fine. The city will incur the expense, and then we sell it, we'll recoup it, and, and solve the problem, and at the same time, not have to, have taxpayers pay for this. So that makes sense.
In the end, the city will, we anticipate, receive its money back through the sale of this property. But right now, we have to come up with the necessary funds, and we do have a source of those funds. It was the property that we, as I said, we sold about 3 weeks ago that we
Right.
would be utilizing for this purpose.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Broderick, are you on this issue or a different issue?
Yes, I think my question was answered. I was going to ask if, I assume we're going to follow up with a lien on the property. We're paying to have it demolished. And also, if we could maybe get a list. I know there's other properties across the city that have this, other neighborhoods with similar issues. If maybe we could get a list, because I think it'd be a good idea if we prioritize and make sure that people understand we're trying to work on all of them in a fair manner. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Donahue?
Thank you. When was this on the demolition list? Did this come before us for a hearing for a demolition order, or I don't remember it?
I don't believe it's come to the council for a demolition order as of yet, but it was referred to us back in March.
8 months
in
ago.
the March timeframe to do some work
Right.
on this. And I believe the building inspector is moving forward with the necessary process once that.
For the
we're
list,
ready
because
to
I
move
mean,
forward.
that's typically the process if we don't own it by tax title or something. And we don't own this property, right?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Nothing else on that issue? Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly on this issue. I understand, and I know the manager knows, and the council knows, that if the city demolishes this building, the city will receive ownership and put a lien on the property, and as the manager indicated, we will get our money back. This is the second fire at this building. There's no roof on the building. It's nothing but black and charred embers, and the people want, who I represent, who we all represent, want some action, and that's why I brought it up. So, you say in a month or so, Mr. Manager?
It's my anticipation that that will be taking place in a month or two, yes.
I received a call from a good friend, Ahmed Violet, and he was visiting the doctor's office on Palmer Street today. And it was a dumpster hauler removing a dumpster. He kept traffic backed up on Palmer Street for almost a half an hour. So I don't know who that hauler was, Mr. Manager, but you can probably investigate and find out who it was. It was early this morning, and traffic was backed up. So, and one last issue, received a communication from Jeff Gomes about the warning light at Mammoth Road and Woodward Avenue. And the good news is Jeff indicated that although it did not meet warrants in the past, it may meet signal warrants today. So that's great news, and great news for the people in Pawtucket. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on communications from the city manager? Okay. Hearing a motion to accept communications placed on file by Councilor Rita Mercier, second by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communications are accepted, placed on file. I do have a, not on the agenda, but a memo from the clerk. There was a published legal ad concerning a zoning hearing that was supposed to take place at next meeting. There was an error in the date in the publication, so we are going to have to re-advertise the public hearing concerning the pending zoning amendments. Those were recommended to be approved by the planning board. It will be at no cost to the city, but we are going to have to republish. So we entertain a motion to suspend the rules, take this matter up, and set it on for public hearing on Tuesday, November 13th. So moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Milanazzo. On the motion to suspend the rules, any objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. Motion to refer this matter to a public hearing on November 13th by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to a public hearing on November 13th. Councilor Elliott.
Mayor, just for clarification purposes, I actually received the phone call last night on this issue, and is that for regulating parking of commercial vehicles on, that's not. I did receive another phone call last night, and I thought there was a, is there a public hearing on that coming up with the planning board? Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Council, and it's my understanding that there was also a mistake with that legal.
Yes, there
ad.
was, right. There was a
So
mistake
now
on that
the
one.
hearing, I believe I was told, was going to be the 19th.
So for,
Next planning board hearing will be the 19th. They will hear that particular ordinance and then refer it back.
so
to
the 19th for regulations governing commercial parking
Correct.
on streets.
Correct.
Okay.
So be at the planning board November 19th, and then we'll come to the council for
Right.
action.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that
This
clarification.
zoning matter will be heard at the council meeting November 13th.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on those items? Okay, the next item on the agenda is an order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Motion to suspend the first full reading by Councilor Mendonça, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of suspending the first full reading, say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title. In order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. I believe this concerns a handicap space on Merrill Street and also a mandatory left-hand turn lane on Green Street. Any discussion on these items? Roll call.
Counselor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield. Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the order is approved. Next item is a vote authorizing the city manager, acting through the Division of Planning and Development, to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in the amount of $200,000 from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for brownfields assessments. Motion to waive the first full reading by Councilor Mendonça, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title. A vote authorizing the city manager, acting through the Division of Planning and Development, to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in the amount of $200,000 from the United States Environmental Protection Agency for brownfields assessments. Any questions or comments concerning this vote? Roll call.
Counselor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Caulfield. Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Present.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
8 yeas, the vote is approved. Next item is a vote authorizing the city manager, acting through the Division of Planning and Development, to apply for, accept, and expend 3 grants in the total amount of $550,000 from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for brownfield assessments and cleanup, whereas the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has made available grant funds for brownfields assessment and cleanup, and whereas the city of Lowell desires to apply for, accept, and expend funds from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for brownfields assessment and the cleanup of 86 Faye Street. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell, the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development, be and hereby is authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expend 3 grants in the total amount of $550,000 from the United States Environmental Protection Agency for brownfields assessments in the cleanup of 86 Faye Street, and be it further voted, the city manager, on behalf of the City of Lowell, be and hereby is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary in connection with said grants from the United States Environmental Protection Agency grant funds for brownfields assessment and cleanup referred to above. Second reading by title. A vote authorizing the city manager, acting through the Division of Planning and Development, to apply for, accept, and expend 3 grants in the total amount of $550,000 from the United States Environmental Protection Agency for brownfields assessment and cleanup. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, do we know what's going on at 86 Faye Street? What type of cleanup is going on there, and for what purpose?
Mr. Bakke, if you could enlighten us as to the cleanup at Faye Street.
Thank you. Yeah, Faye Street is a property that the city acquired through tax title foreclosure some time ago. And we've taken a look at it for possible future development and discovered that there was some contamination on the property that would limit its potential as a development site. So we're now looking to get some assistance from the EPA to do the cleanup. The hazard that's been identified is not the type of hazard that is an imminent threat to any of the neighbors or anything like that, but it would preclude certain reuses of the property. So what we're looking to do is get it cleaned up, and then ultimately the end use will probably be an open space or park use of that site.
Thank you. The reason I asked that is because a lady last week asked me about that, and somehow I don't have her number, so I hope that she is listening as well so that she could understand where we're going with this, because I didn't quite talk to her. She left a number, but I don't remember. I could not. As she was leaving the number, someone else was calling, and every time she'd say a number, it would cancel that out, so I didn't quite get it, and it didn't come up on my caller ID. So thank you for explaining that, and hopefully she's listening this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on this, Councilor Elliott?
I'm just voting present. I want people to know that I work for EPA, so there won't be any conflict. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call.
Counselor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Caulfield. Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Present.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
8 yeas, the vote is approved. Next item is a vote declaring surplus the property at 2628 Lawrence Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the disposition of said parcel, namely 2628 Lawrence Street, Lowell. Whereas the City of Lowell Historic Board is the owner of property at 2628 Lawrence Street, Lowell, having acquired title thereof by Chapter 566 of the Acts of 1983, recorded with the Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds in Book 10767, page 219, and Book 10767, page 218, respectively. And whereas the Lowell Historic Board voted on January 8, 2007, to authorize the sale and disposition of this property for a minimum bid of $40,000 through the usual City of Lowell disposition process under Chapter 30B. And whereas by letter dated October 17, 2007, the city manager has recommended the city council declare the property surplus and not presently needed for municipal purposes, and to include therein a minimum bid of $40,000. Now therefore be it voted by a 2/3 vote that the City of Lowell Historic Board property at 2628 Lawrence Street is hereby declared surplus and not presently needed for municipal purposes. The city manager, under authority granted by the Lowell Historic Board and acting through the Division of Planning and Development, is hereby authorized to proceed with the disposition of said property under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, and to include therein a minimum bid price of $40,000, and also to include required notification to all abutters pursuant to the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 2-297, and be it further voted that the request for proposal shall contain such other terms, restrictions, and conditions as the city manager deems are in the best interest of the City of Lowell, including but not limited to all restrictions imposed by the Lowell Historic Board to ensure historic preservation. Second reading by title, a vote declaring surplus the property at 2628 Lawrence Street, Lowell, Mass., and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the disposition of said parcel, namely 2628 Lawrence Street in Lowell. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm familiar with this property. I was on the historic board when the purchase was made. It's in terrible shape, but I do have a couple of questions. It was purchased for $17,500 by the Lowell Historic Board. I assume that was with city funds, or City of Lowell funds. And the Historical Commission gave $85,000. I say gave because I don't know. I don't recall if it was in the form of a grant or as a lien, a mortgage. In other words, if we sell this for $40,000, are we going to be on the hook for the balance of whatever they don't get paid back?
This would be the Mass Historic provided a grant of $85,000, and with that came a restriction to the exterior, historic preservation restriction.
Okay. So if we get $40,000, it would pay them back whatever the balance is, whatever we make above what we paid?
No, we would not pay them back anything. There's still a ownership interest in the exterior of the building with the preservation restriction.
Okay. I don't have a problem with this. I'm familiar with the building. Any possible problem a building can have, I think this one has it. It's been mothballed now and somewhat secured for the last apparently 4 years. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a problem with this. First of all, $102,000 was placed in that building, $85,000 from the Massachusetts Preservation Commission, and I know that's only a deed restriction in terms of what they do at the outside. But our current assessed value is $269,800. And I'm assuming that if this is a current assessed value, it's the value that the assessors determined was there in January of this year. I find it hard to believe that if we have an assessment of $269,000 and someone has already put $102,000 into the building, that the appraisal, I think, is faulty for $40,000. I don't know how that number was arrived at. I don't know if we had more than one appraisal, but I can't really support this based on the amount of money that went into this. I think it should be, at some point in time, we're doing the right thing in terms of surplusing the building, but I'm not so sure we're getting what it's worth based on what's before us. Either that or there's something clearly wrong with our assessing process. When they're assessed at $269,000 and we're saying it's worth only $40,000, And we know there's $102,000 that was already spent on that building. So although I don't disagree that it should be surplus, I totally disagree with the amount of money that we're setting as a minimum bid. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. There are a number of councilors, Mr. Manager. You want to hear from all first. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I remember this, this issue being on the agenda of a few years ago, and it was taken off. And I went down and looked at the property. And quite a bit of money has been invested on the exterior of the building. Whoever purchases for $40,000, they're going to gut the interior anyways and renovate it. That's understanding. But I'm looking at the assessed value, as Councilor Mercier brought up, almost $270,000. They're going to sell each unit for $20,000. Whoever purchases this building, I can't blame them for buying it for $40,000. They will build, convert 2 nice apartments, and the building is in great shape on the exterior, new roof and everything. So I have a lot of questions on this, Mr. Manager. Now, it looks to me like you need a 2/3 vote for this. I would like to delay this until we get more information pertaining to this, even go to the Finance Subcommittee or the Economic Subcommittee. I'm not against anyone purchasing the building to create a home for themselves. But I wouldn't want to see a developer purchase the building at $40,000 and turn it into a money-making proposition. So I have some questions, and I'd like to delay this. So.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, there's a mistruth here, because 26 Lawrence Street is assessed value is $165,400, and 28 Lawrence Street is $131,400, and if you add those two figures together, you don't get $269,800. You get $296,800, which is $27,000 more than what my colleagues feel and what it says actually right here in this paper. That's $296,800 for the boat assessed. And I know assessments are high, and probably they could not probably get this much. But when I see that they tried to get, in 2003, they tried to market the property and sell it for $114,000, and then again for $85,000 with no results. I still think from $85,000 to $40,000 is quite a deep jump, and I don't know why we couldn't maybe ask $75,000. I think we should get the biggest bang for our buck, and instead of deep sixing it that low, I'm not happy about it as well. I know that I made a motion and requested many times that we look at our surplus property and try to get rid of it so that people can, live there and generate a tax base. But I don't want to give our property away, and I think that's what we're doing here. So I would wish that we could delay it and at least come back with a higher price, because I know that, yes, I know the outside is beautiful. I know that a lot of historic money went in it. I know they have to go by historic specifications. But 9 out of 10, when someone buys a home like this, such as this, the age of this property, they gut it anyways. It's already gutted. So I know there's a lot of work that has to be there, but look at the profit they're going to generate. I don't know that it's going to be owner-occupied. I know that there is a developer interested in this property that could well afford more than $40,000 to give to the city, and I'm willing to wait and get a little bit more than $40,000, and that's all I have to say about this issue.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wouldn't object to the delay to get more information, but we have to appreciate the fact that it's been off the tax rolls for at least 7 years, and we've tried on a couple of occasions to try to sell the property to no avail. When I say we, the Historic Board, it's my understanding. So we have to come up with a plan in order to get the right developer. Hopefully it will be, as Councilor Rita Mercier said, owner-occupied, but to get the right developer to renovate the property and put it back on the tax rolls, because ultimately that's the goal of the council, to get this as income-producing property for the city from a tax point of view. Again, I don't object to a delay to get more information, but again, I do think we have to be realistic on what we can actually sell the property for.
Councilor Donahue?
I think it's fine to get a report, but this property has had a tortured history for years, and we have an appraisal, so let's find out, more, why the appraisal is $20,000 a unit, and get a report from the administration, from the historic board as to why we're looking for that. I mean, clearly it hasn't sold on 2 prior occasions, so something's up with this property, so maybe, the more light shed, the better.
Counselor Elliott.
I just wanted to ask, what's the back taxes on this, Mr. Manager, Mr. Moses?
I don't know what it was at the time, because we own it.
Okay. So even before we took it, was there anything outstanding?
Offhand, I don't know.
Okay.
I can look it up.
Counselor Broderick.
Thank you. A couple of issues. To address a couple of things were brought up. I'm fairly familiar with the properties going back a few years. I actually walked through it with the historic board, and it is absolutely falling down on itself. The $85,000 is literally a Band-Aid to hold it up, the structure up. So it is not in any way, shape, or form in even decent shape. Exterior and interior is just is terrible. There was an effort, as it says here, to try and get rid of it for $114,000 and then $85,000. Nobody wants to buy it. It's not just the condition of the property. It's tiny. It's got a driveway to a slum behind it that they were trying to coordinate purchasing that property to tear it down and have some parking. It's on a main road, so you can't park on Lawrence Street, and it's got commercial two steps down. They built the auto parts store across the street, which took away the ability to even lease parking spaces. It's not a valuable property. I have no problem going along with the delay here to get more information and maybe have the appraisal or the appraiser address why it's only $20,000 a unit, but I don't think it's going to be a steal for anybody. I think that whoever gets it is going to be in for a lot of work, and there's a number of conditions that make this worth a lot less than what we had it assessed at. Obviously, we weren't paying ourselves, and nobody was going to come forward to challenge the assessed value. But I certainly have no problem with delaying it to get more information for people, though, that aren't as familiar with the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I certainly don't have a problem with delaying this if you need additional information to move forward with it. But let me just explain a little bit about how this came about. First off, Councilor Mercia raised the issue of the assessed value is different from the letter to what she was able to get from the most recent assessment. I assume that's Councilor, you received that from the assessor's office based on the new values. The letter that you were provided had the old FY07 values, so there was going to be that type of adjustment given the fact that we went through a revaluation. But I guess I should explain that when we do determine the value of a building, we're going to do it based upon what the market would bear for a building of this sort, of this size, 2 units, this type, and as if it were in reasonable shape and didn't have any problems. Certainly, as Councilor Broderick pointed out, we're not going to go out and do check on the value of property that we own. We're going to focus our energy on the pieces of property that we're actually receiving tax dollars from. So we haven't gone out, the assessors have not gone out and checked this property to change the value based upon the condition of the property. So it does, as has been pointed out, it does require an extensive amount of work. The value of just the land is limited because there is that preservation restriction that would limit you from being able to even tear the building down. So the property, because of that, has reduced value, given the fact that someone that's going in there has to keep the structure up and also has to, short of returning that $85,000 to Mass Historical, which means that, in effect, the property is actually worth about 120. Someone would have to pay about 125,000, give or take, depending upon what the ultimate bid price is, which is more in keeping with what I think the current values are in that particular area, after you count in the cost of demolition and so forth. So And the $40,000 is simply the minimum bid price. As has been pointed out, we've tried to sell this on 2 occasions, as low as $85,000. There were no takers. We would put this out under this scenario at $40,000, and hopefully we'll get a couple of bids in there and get it up to $75,000 or thereabouts, and start collecting taxes on the property, deal with the problem of a vacant building and the way that impacts that neighborhood, and eliminate a liability risk to the city as we sit on a vacant building here in the city. So those would be the reasons why I would advocate that the council move forward. I'd be happy to put that into a written report if you found that would be more helpful. But I'll leave that up to the council to decide how you want to handle that.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to see pictures as what you're talking about, that it's almost inhabitable. Like, what is it so bad about this inside interior that is warranting this low price? I know people gut things out all the time, and they start from scratch. Is the wood so rotted they have to replace the joist columns in the
Yes.
basement?
Yes.
Well,
Everything.
then I'd like to know that.
But certainly get a professional report. That was my understanding from when I was on there and we went through it.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, at your convenience, is there any way members of the council or I could go and look at the structure?
We'd be happy to arrange that, and we can certainly have I wouldn't want to go out and have the a full report done on this. I mean, we're already sunk enough money into this.
Right.
But I'd be happy to have the building inspector give us a report on that, and get some pictures for you. And I think that most of when we talk about gutting this, given its age, I would anticipate that there's lead paint issues there. There's probably some other environmental issues that someone would have to take care of. If the structure itself, the joists need to be replaced and so on, that obviously has very large costs for anyone doing this type of work. But be happy to arrange a tour or pictures if this is delayed.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Everything I've heard tonight suggests to me that must be all in the appraisal.
Right.
And therefore, I'd like to delay this for a week and get a copy of the appraisal and a further report from the manager, because when you look at this on its surface, it doesn't look right. Here we have a building and it's assessed at $269. There's a restriction, but there's still $85,000 worth of work done on the exterior that the person who receives it won't have to do. And if all of these conditions exist, as was indicated by the manager and Councilor Broderick, that must be all in that appraisal report. And therefore, I'd like to delay it a week and get a copy of that appraisal report.
Motion to delay action for 1 week pending receipt of a copy of the appraisal.
Second.
By Councilor Armin Mercia, second by, you pick one.
Big one.
Councilor Rita Mercia. Councilor Donahue?
And I was just going to add, it might be a good idea to have someone like Steve Stoll or someone available who I know is familiar with the property who can answer questions, because it's something that's been discussed in the past, so he may have more in detail, or someone from the historic board.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, when did we try to sell? You said it on 2 occasions. Excuse me, when was the last time we tried to sell this?
Well, I know that it was in 2003 that we tried to sell it for the 114. I'm not sure which year we tried to sell it at $85,000. Obviously, the market has changed from 2003 to the present.
Right, exactly. And the city pays for appraisals on these properties every time. Do we get 1 or 2 appraisals?
I believe in this case, we probably had an earlier appraisal on this property to set the market $114,000. I know that we had a recent one that put it in at $40,000.
Okay. And I guess my concern is, it was mentioned, how much more are we going to put into this building if we know, I'll be interested to look at the appraisal myself, and I'll support the delay. But considering the market, and it's, we just spoke of, a piece of property on Westwood Street that's in much worse condition, but this been, it's been 7 years, and would, time for us to unload it. And, sometimes whatever we can get, it's a good thing no one's trying to, shortchange the city by any stretch, but, this is the 3rd time, we have to try to get rid of it for what the market will bear. And, that's what the appraisal is for. So I'll support the motion, for a week's delay, but I'd like to proceed and, get some money for it before it's too late.
Mr. Manager?
The only other point I would make is that we did look at this for potential municipal purposes. Thought about moving in a couple of offices over there, but given the renovation costs and the lack of parking, it didn't make sense for us to do that. So that's why we finally, it was just a couple weeks ago that I made the decision to move forward to put it before the council. So
I mean, we're all for historic preservation, but here's a case where, that restriction might be a hindrance to, investing X amount of dollars to get the return. So look for the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick, do you have
No, I
anything?
was actually just going to bring up what Council Amon Mercia brought up about. This should be in the appraisal, I assume, the condition of the walls, floors, ceilings, and everything. So if we get a copy of that, I think that might answer. And also, the Historic Board, I know, has a gazillion pictures, photographs, and also probably has their own reports from when they were purchasing the property and talking about renovation and so on. Initially thought it might be a bit of a moneymaker, and obviously it didn't work out. But that's all.
Okay. Anything further on this? All those in favor of the motion to delay, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter will be delayed pending receipt of the report from the manager. Subcommittee reports. Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Economic Development Subcommittee met this evening. Councilor Armin Mercier and Councilor Eileen Donahue met to discuss the long-term lease issues and considerations around the Jam Garage retail space. We met for an hour this evening. We had representatives from JAMBRA, the Jackson Appleton Middlesex Business and Residents Association, as well as representatives from the Edge Group, the real estate consultant hired by the city to help lease the space. The discussion really evolved around what's in the best interest of the city going forward. And as we all know, we're looking at this retail space and more specifically this garage as an economic stimulus for the Jackson Appleton Middlesex Street area. So we really want to develop some criteria for leases, talking about hours of operation, trying to develop an anchor tenant for the 5,000 square feet of space that's been set aside for a restaurant. As you all know, the 17,600 square feet of space available. They're putting together now a marketing plan, which actually will start as soon as tomorrow. They gave us a rendering, if you will, of an ad that's going in the Lowell Sun, I believe, starting tomorrow, about getting on the ground floor retail and restaurant space. I think, though, the message that both the administration, with all due respect, and the consultant got from the subcommittee was that we don't want the space rented out just to garner funds to pay the debt service. We want to try to use this garage as an economic stimulus for the neighborhood. We want to make sure that it's done right. We want to make sure that the Economic Development Subcommittee stays involved from this point going forward. So we're requesting the administration to have periodic meetings with the Economic Development Subcommittee, work through the subcommittee in order to not some Tuesday evening come to the full council with a lease that we've not had an opportunity to review. Because as you all know, all the leases will come to the full council for their support, for their consideration and support. So the administration's agreed to do that work through the Economic Development Subcommittee. Again, we want to make sure that the right tenants are selected for that space in order to act as a stimulus for the neighborhood. I believe that Mr. Faust and Joanne Souza from the Edge Group, who they are working hard, and I have to give them credit for the work that they've put into it to date, understand the position that the city is taking, and we're waiting for information and report that was done by working with the administration by Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council, as well as the Lowell Plan, on working with the Buxton group to come up with the list of potential retailers. That report is about to be released and will be given to the Edge Group as to look at potential tenants as well. But we did receive from the manager in our packets this weekend a list of issues and considerations that we as a full council need to look at as we work with the administration, specifically the Planning and Development Office, as well as the EDGE group in leasing that space. But again, we did make it clear to those at the subcommittee meeting that we want to make sure that the space is not leased just to secure monies to pay the debt service. Albeit important to do that, it's also important to use it to bring in the correct tenants. So that's a report of progress, and if the other members of the subcommittee would like to add anything, please feel free to do so, but I'm sure that we'll be meeting on this topic on a very regular basis. We can also look forward to ads in banker and tradesmen, as well as it's already, I believe, on the MLS, on the commercial side of the MLS register, so hopefully we'll be bringing some leases that the neighborhood group, the Economic Development Subcommittee, and obviously the administration feel would be in the best interest of the city.
Thank you, Councilor. Further comments on the subcommittee report? Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but Joanne Souza did say that if the council wanted weekly or bi-weekly reports as to the status of how they're progressing with it, that would be fine. She also said that they do have some people in mind, but until someone has signed the paper, the lease, they didn't feel obligated to divulge the sources, and I could understand that. And then people spoke and said that this is not a time to just rent specifically to get the first person and the first dollar in there, but to first look at the long haul and to get the right people in there for the long duration. So it was a very informative meeting, and I just wanted to thank the EDGE group for coming forward and expressing their opinion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Motion to accept the subcommittee report by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Additional subcommittee reports? Okay. Hearing none, we will move to the petitions. There is one claim for property damage. Motion to refer to Law Department by Councilor Rita Mercier, second by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the Law Department. There is a miscellaneous petition from Daniel Couture. Request to address the council concerning police, 3 12-hour days, and Middlesex shelter. You want to be heard on that, Mr. Couture? Just remind you that we do have a 5-minute rule.
Okay. Hello. I've been up since 3 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. That's 12 hours. It took me an hour to get my breath, and I'm back. So, but I found out it's a union issue, and it's like a secret society. I was talking to a cop on. They said if you wanted to know who's president of the union, you can't find out. It's secret. That's not the issue. I voted for the first time in my life last week, and I'm homeless now, but I'm homeless in the city of Lowell. And I was talking to a gentleman who was really mad, and somebody on the city council had said something against the shelter. I said, I wanted to talk, because I used to live at 17 Spring Street where McCullough's was. There was a diner there. In that building, there's a 8 by 8 by 8 chest full of, that's where they keep beer and wine. It was there in Capone's day. There used to be a trailer. And that store there that's in the little shop. Now it's part of my concerns, you know, looking out for the little guy and stuff. And as far as the shelter, I wouldn't sleep there. That place was designed to get drunks off the street that were dying. And she lost one. She lost it. She bought a guy a drink, and I forget his name. But anyhow, I voted, guaranteed. They say I can vote for 8 people plus 1 more. I guarantee this place is going to stay the same. But I'm going to vote for Stock. So. No, my grandfather taught me that. If you don't like, I started smoking when I found out I had cancer, and then hey, no, but I'd like to. No, I can't do that. Address something that was said tonight. Will you say the prayers after the meeting?
All right, I think
that's
I'm
enough.
going to have to ask you
I
to
just,
wrap it up here, Mr. Kuchar.
I'll save jokes for, okay, I hear it.
Okay, thank you. All right, motion to refer the petition to the city manager by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the city manager. Under the motions this evening, the first motion is by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the city manager request the local delegation file legislation to change the laws regarding siting of group homes in a city or town as follows. Any community in the Commonwealth that meets or exceeds the 10% threshold of affordable housing can implement a permitting process for group homes and shelters located in the community. In a city, the city council shall issue the permit, and in a town, the board of selectmen. All group homes and shelters currently located within borders of the municipality shall have 1 year to obtain a permit to operate from the local authorities based on performance compliance. The municipality shall have the right, based on public participation, to allow a permit request.
Second.
Second by Councilor Armin Mercier. Councilor Elliott, I do believe we have
Al Hebert.
a speaker registered on this.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hebert, do you want to?
I'm here in opposition to changing the group homes as they are. And the reason for it is many years ago when the group homes started to drift into our communities, they moved into Pawtuckaville first, and we were surrounded with them. They would break loose, run into the forest, and go on all kinds of ventures. Well, they don't do that anymore. I live right smack in the middle of the forest with 200 other residents, and we're never bothered by the groups. I think they're very well managed. And the next thing is the greatest fear that you and I and all of us should have is if we suddenly shut down the group homes and we opened things like orphanages and reform schools. We had smears of reform schools. Every poor kid living in a poor neighborhood could almost be guaranteed that he would serve a certain amount of time in a reform school in the 30s and 40s. It was terrible. And for a family, if a family had 9 children in the family, they were out there. They didn't allow the family to survive on themselves. They would come in and try to dictate how you raise a family. And we were a family of 11. And to have a cop walk into your house, knock on the door and say, we're going to take him with you, you got one too many. We got to do something about this. It's unlawful. It's not unlawful to have children, it's God-given. So we had that big family. But fortunately, my family isn't all rags and whatever. My mother comes from Poland, and she had to leave because of World War I. And my father was born here in the United States, and his family came from Canada. And we came from a place called Notre Dame of Hebersville, Abbeville, okay? A town named after ourselves. We're proud people. So when you talk about whether or not you're a citizen of the United States or not, I'm an American Indian. Anybody here American Indian? He is.
Can we build a casino in your house?
Hey, no, yeah, I'm probably the only guy that could make money on casino around here. You know? And it might be a good idea. You just gave me a good idea. We'll open one upstairs or some other place. But seriously getting back to this, we as a group, the Pawtuckaville Citizens Council, met with the House group managers many times over. And in those years, we weren't getting along too well. We worked it all out, and it worked fine. And all I can say for poor people living in a facility like that, a kid that is being punished for one reason or another, or probably for none, then you better put your forgiveness hat on, because we're going to fight like hell when you try to take these people out of our neighborhoods. I have Cambodians in my neighborhood. I have every nationality you could imagine in our neighborhoods. And guess what? We get along a hell of a lot better than the city hall does. I hear you fighting all the time. So remember, these people, they're good people. And they're God-fearing people. They like their neighborhoods. They get along well. You can just hope that you would have the same type of people living in your neighborhood as we have in ours. I can go out in the morning and speak to a Cambodian or Laotian or whatever nationality I chose. Black. As a matter of fact, my sister passed away just shortly, and a black family bought her home. We built the homes ourselves. 7 homes on that hill were built by our family. I built all the stone foundations. You go up there and take a look at the size of the rocks, and you know what work is all about. So all I'm saying is, and I'm telling you in this way because I'll create a little stampede up in Pawtuckaville. I'm 81 now, but I got a lot of guts in me yet. I just had the other side fixed. Now I'm all set with the heart. The heart's fixed. This is fixed. That's fixed. So I'm all set to go. The doctors predicted I might have another 10 or 15 years to live because I've had so many operations. So I got the guts. They're all together. If you want to fight, disturb my neighborhood, the people that live in it. We fought to keep the homes out years ago because of who might build in there. Then we joined the contractors and worked in unity with the contractors to make sure they put the plans together just the way they were planned. And you know what? I have friendships with these guys like you can't believe. They call me and ask me, why don't you come up and visit us? Because we got along and we put it together as people. We didn't need the politics because every time we spoke to the political sides of it, it slowed the gears down and nothing happened. So we went on and did things ourselves. We've got a very proud neighborhood. Pawtuckaville is proud. These people were all accepted by us. We had meetings with them. The PCC says, go, and I haven't heard the PCC say, shut it down. So onwards to the hardworking people of the country, the people that suffer the most, the young children. And I plead with you as a city manager, and if you don't, I'm going to kick the hell out of you.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert.
To help us.
Thank you.
I'm not a politician. I'm not looking for a position on the city council or any other board. So I can fight you like you can never imagine. So that isn't what I want. I want happiness between us, right? Isn't that what we should have? Love for one another and our brothers.
Thank you very much. Councilor Elliott.
Nice to see Mr. Hebert again. I just want to clarify to Mr. Hebert before he left, nobody's trying to shut group homes down. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is more of a notification process, and this is not the first time it's been on the floor of this council. I know that I've filed something in the past when there is an issue, and these issues are recurring. Council Mercia filed a similar issue. Several of my colleagues have filed a similar motion, and it's not that we are against it. I can think of many organizations in the city, with the Alternative House or Catholic Charities or Life Links or many others that are they run their organizations and their institutions appropriately so. I realize there's a need for it. I'm not against the concept at all. What is the concern is that the city has done, and we do our fair share. And, I guess the Rock and Willie Street is the latest, and I know it's an expansion, but there needs to be some rein on the law that governs the siting of these homes. Interesting, I can recall being on the executive board of the PCC with Mr. Hebert, And this was many years ago, but there was and remember, it's private institutions now, private organizations, contractors that contract with the state. They come into a community, they pick maybe a home that's for sale, that's a significant size typically, and they can come in and, there's no permitting process on the corner of Mammoth Road and West Meadow Road, East Meadow Road actually, and this was before the PCC that was, completely against it because the neighborhood was against it. It was, if I can recall correctly, it was a group that was going to site a facility for, young, for youth kids. There was a liquor store right across the street, and that was one of the major concerns, that the neighborhood was against it. It was close to the forest, and ultimately the home was never located there. So I think, my motion is specific. It's just an idea. We have 40B requires affordable housing and a certain percentage of housing in each community. I think sort of a similar idea. Why not, why Lowell does its fair share. What about the other communities? I mean, all the people that inhabit or use these facilities are not all Lowellians. Again, I'm not opposed to it, but something has to be done when these homes come in. We hear it after the fact and done in the dark, in the dead of the night. So I don't know if it should be a home rule petition or we request the legislature. I'm not sure what happened the last time, but I think if we call it to their attention, it may make some sense. Who knows who could be at some of these, institutions? We don't know. As long as there's an educational component to it, then they can locate whenever they want, wherever they want, and it just doesn't make sense. You can't sell a hot dog in this city or any other community without getting a permit. Why should why should these organizations, again, not the ones that run them correctly, if that's the case, there's not one of us that would sit here and say no to a House of Hope or institutions, organizations of that nature. This is for those that come in, they collect their money, they contract with the state, and they don't run them properly. I just think the people in any neighborhood should be afforded the opportunity to have some notification, some public process to say yes or no. And lastly, I understand the law is written as it is because some of these institutions, if they were, had to go through some public process, would not see the light of day. Well, I guess that's the essence of democracy. Let people speak out. And Mr. Hebert said it. There are plenty of group homes that they run a very good ship. There are also others that do not. And we have very little authority to do much about it other than to work with them. I can tell you I've heard complaint after complaint of a group home located right off Varnum Avenue. And yes, it does improve for a certain time, but if the director leaves or it changes, who knows? So there's no oversight right now. There's little accountability. There's little that a community can do to enforce or have any say in the location or management of these facilities. And I just think that we have to ask our delegation: is there some way that we can improve the law to help to help cities and towns? So that's the motion, Mr. Mayor. I thank you. It's not to shut down any homes, and not looking to fight with Mr. Hebert, who is 81 years old. I respect him, but something does have to be done for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do support this motion in that I feel we are a compassionate city. I feel that we open our arms to help people out when the case may be. I know that we have met our quota time and time again, and we're not saying to close anything down that's already here, but I remember in the past having many, many lengthy meetings in the mayor's reception room with a group home that came in the dead of the night. It was a shock to the neighbors all around it. And I don't think that that's being neighbor-friendly or, but I know that as time went by, time heals all, and they got to know the place, and it turned out to be okay, and there was great supervision. And I do hear what Mr. Hebert is saying. He has a lot of group homes in his neighborhood, scattered sites, but I try to think of how we are compassionate, and at the same time, when these private organizations come into the city, they're taking a home that otherwise was on the tax roll and just dissolving that because they don't pay taxes. And, you know, I think we've met our fair share. And having said that, I believe that this is a good motion, that we have to have guidelines with the state to say that, you know, we've already been there and back. Could there be another community that could help out? And I don't want to cause gentrification and say, not in our neighborhood, and not the poor, or not the challenged adults. We need all these people here, but I think we have met our obligation, and I think that it's time that somebody else steps up to the plate and helps us along as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Counselor Milanazzo. Motion is to request the city manager provide the most recent uniform crime report and that the report be forwarded to the Public Safety Subcommittee for review. Second by Counselor Caulfield. Counselor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion pretty much speaks for itself. We just closed out the third quarter of 2007, so we do, I believe, now have 9 months worth of statistics. So if we could get those from the police department and have those referred to the Public Safety Subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Counselor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The young gentleman came out from LTC and asked if I would make a quick announcement that they lost power for about 10 minutes of the meeting, and that it would be replayed again tomorrow on Channel 10 at 3 o'clock and will be available online starting tomorrow evening. It was about 10 minutes or so that we lost. So people at home that were concerned about that, it will be replayed again tomorrow and available on online.
Okay. Anybody want to restate any of their points like we had to do last night?
Let's start over.
Yeah. That's so unfair after last night, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn by Counselor Donahue, second by Counselor Armin Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Meeting stands adjourned.
Another one down.